everybody, it's nice to see you again. I hope you're all ready for chapter 2 of The Legend of Kevin. Have we mentioned that Kevin the Flying Pony was a bit plump? Well, Kevin the Flying Pony was a bit plump, so he hadn't been hurt too badly when he hit the side of the building. He just kind of bounced off, but he was rather startled. He had never met a tall building before. He thought it must be a special cloud made out of bricks. Feeling a little dazed and confused after his wild journey through the sky, he fluttered down onto the nearest balcony to have a rest. Unfortunately, he landed rather awkwardly and bumped his wing. The balcony was the balcony outside Max's bedroom. It was the biggest bedroom in the flat, and it had been Daisy's, but she said it looked much too cheerful when the sunlight streamed through the windows, so she let Max have it. She had moved into his old bedroom, which she painted black. There wasn't any sunlight streaming in when Max opened the curtains, because it was still the middle of the night. There wasn't even any moonlight, because it was raining so hard and the sky was full of fat black clouds. There was only the dim orange glow of the streetlights below. It was just bright enough for Max to see that there was something on the balcony, and that something was an animal. He fetched his torch, but the battery was going, so he still couldn't tell what sort of animal it was. For a moment, Max felt a little bit afraid, for it looked like quite a big sort of animal. What if it turned out to be a fearsome kind of polar bear? Don't be silly, he told himself. How could a fearsome polar bear have got all the way up here? But he opened the door onto the balcony very carefully, just in case. As soon as he stepped out, he could see that the animal wasn't a fearsome polar bear or a fearsome anything. "You're a pony," he said. But hang on, how did a pony get all the way up here? Kevin flapped his little wet white wings. "Ow," he said. "Oh," said Max, "you're a flying pony." He had always thought winged horses were only in stories, but here was one right on his balcony. And he could see that it needed his help. It looked all shivery and sorry for itself, and it kept twitching one of its wings. Very gently, Max stroked its soggy mane. "Do you have a name, little pony?" he said. "Kevin," said Kevin. "You can talk?" said Max, who hadn't really been expecting an answer. "Kevin," said Kevin, nodding wisely. "Where have you come from?" asked Max. Kevin just neighed very quietly. He knew a few words, but not enough to explain the wild, wet hills of the outermost west and the storm which had blown him out of his tree. "Well, you are in Bumbleford now," said Max. That was the name of his town. "And my name is Max," he said, stroking the pony's twitchy wing. "Oh," said Kevin. "I think you've sprained it, you poor thing," said Max. He stood and wondered what to do. He had always wanted to have an animal to look after, but now that one had arrived, he wasn't quite sure what to do. He thought he should ask his mum and dad, but it was the middle of the night, and he didn't want to wake them up. Besides, he already knew what a pony needed most. It needed to get inside, out of the cold and the wind and the rain. So he opened the door wide, and the pony stood up and came clip-clopping into his bedroom. Max fetched the towel from his swimming things bag and dried Kevin as best he could. Then he put his duvet over him to keep him warm. "I expect you're hungry," Max said, "but I don't know what flying ponies eat. Do you eat hay like ordinary ponies? Or do you eat seeds and worms and things like birds?" Well, we know what Kevin likes to eat, don't we? Kevin snorted and shook his head hard to get rid of the idea of eating worms. "Biscuits," he whinnied. "What sort?" said Max. "Custard creams," said Kevin. That was a stroke of luck, because custard creams were Max's dad's favourite biscuit. There was a big tin of them in the cupboard in the kitchen. Leaving Kevin to shiver under his duvet, Max crept to his bedroom door and let himself out. The hinges of the door squeaked a bit, but he didn't think anyone would hear over the noise of the wind. He tiptoed past the room where Mum and Dad were sleeping, past Daisy's door with its no little brothers, sign and vampires welcome. He crossed the corner of the living room and went into the kitchen. Quiet as a mouse, he opened the cupboard, opened the biscuit tin and took out a custard cream. Then he took another one because he thought a flying pony as fat as Kevin might be able to manage 2 biscuits. Then he took a third because he thought maybe he should have one himself to keep Kevin company. Max was very thoughtful like that. He was just tiptoeing back across the living room with the biscuits in his hand when a voice whispered, "Isn't it wonderful?" And that's the end of chapter 2. We'll have to find out who that voice was when we catch up next time. Take care. Bye.